Absolutely. And your daughter can follow in the footsteps of some very strong, powerful oil and gas women. We'd be happy to mentor her when she's ready. You just send her our way. We got this.
She could weld. She could be a welder.
Perfect. Two best welders I have ever worked with in the industry were both female, and one of them was like 4'11". And honest to gosh, she could kick the butt off of all of the guys that were out there. Um, yeah, so we've got her. She's getting a pink hard hat. That's happening.
I wish I would have known about welding whenever I was in high school. You
I
know,
didn't
like to me,
either.
it was like you're going to college.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. You know, but it is a very lucrative and great. I went back to get my petroleum engineering degree because I loved the culture and the grit and the candidness of our industry. And if I could have found a different way to penetrate the industry, I would have, like welding.
Well,
You
and
know?
I think it fits in well with just the history of this area. I mean, you come from West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking coal miners, right? So these are just hardworking individuals. It's what we've always known and done. And we've got steel up here, and other types of manufacturing. It's kind of within, I don't know, it's just in us, right? So it's a continuation from exactly where we came from and what we're used to up here. And Jason, you mentioned, talking about the economic development that the oil and gas industry has given locally. The guest that we're having on next week, Mark Marmo, and I don't have the stats. I'll have them for next week for you. But they actually did like a review of how much their company spent in their local area, and this is just one. In the grand scheme of things, smaller service company. I mean, Deepwell are huge and extremely successful, but I mean, it was mind blowing. You're talking millions of dollars that they spent between per diems that they pay their guys, which in turn get spent in, the local restaurants and Giant
Hotels.
Eagle and the hotel fees, which also generate tourism taxes for the area. The gas that they buy, the fact that they're eating out at our restaurants. I mean, it was literally mind blowing when they actually totaled up how much their guys spent. And that's just one company. We have hundreds of them here, hundreds of them that are doing exactly the same thing. It's really kind of mind blowing. I don't think people realize, and when it's one of my pet peeves when they suggest about taking it away or replacing it with something else. I'm like, how exactly financially are you planning on doing that? I just don't think people quite realize the true financial impact that we have as an industry on our local areas.
And externally too, like how much we produce for the world. Like
Oh gosh, yeah.
yeah. So West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, if it was its own country, would be the third most natural gas producing country in the world,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and produced responsibly.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that a lot of people don't know. If you take this away, you're going to have somebody else produce it, but in a much less responsible way. But the demand is still going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at the impact fees from last year alone, Jason, and our industry contributed $275 million to the state of Pennsylvania in impact fees, and 7.7 million of that was actually specifically allocated back to Washington County, to our people here living
Yeah,
in
that
this
was
county.
the largest impact fee payment, I think, in the history of the state, if not pretty darn close. And I think Washington County got one of the largest shares. And what a lot of people lose track of is that impact fee money goes out to the counties and goes to the local municipalities. And, in my district in particular, my local municipalities get, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars every single year from this, from having wells and activity going on in their municipalities. But also, almost all of our environmental programs in Harrisburg through DEP are funded through the impact fees. The oil and gas industry pays for a lot of those programs and those grants, those environmental stewardship programs. Because look, I think we all recognize that when the coal industry was here, we have legacy issues from that. We don't want that from this industry, and this industry has been proactive, at least since I've been around, in managing those issues, making sure we don't have those problems. We don't have all these AMD issues and things that kind of haunt us from our past. We've learned from those mistakes, and the money that comes here locally. I mean, you look at it: new baseball fields, new parks, new fields, new municipal buildings, new sidewalks, new trails, like all those things. Like they help add amenities to our area. While you talked about the economic impact. I mean, I remember. I think it was not even like 10 years ago. You couldn't get a truck anywhere because the industry bought them all. Like they literally went to the dealership and said, "We'll take all of them."
We do like our pickup trucks. I do apologize. We do like them a little bit.
It's fantastic. The dealerships loved it. It was the boom that they needed to have. I mean, look, the impact fee is in my opinion, is a small part of the economic benefits that they provide here, but they have really been lifesavers for a lot of our municipalities. I think. A couple of them in my district, they use almost all of that money to repave their roads. That took their road budget because, these days it's like $1 million a mile to pave a road. Yeah. And that money's very helpful in doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I live in Taylorstown now, but I lived in Claysville before. And at one point we had 13 acres and I had range resources fracking pretty much in my front yard. They were like 100 yards from my front yard. I had them drilling just behind my 13 acres. Then I had Trinity Pipeline coming on this side of my property. And then I actually it was Murray at the time, but they were putting in a degas fan or something like that. So I had the coal mine on this side. And my daughter and I used to go out on my quad and we'd kind of film everything from start to finish. And I'll have to see if it's still on LinkedIn. I did kind of like a series from start to finish of the pipeline section that was next to me. And I had so many people reach out to me from all over the world that were like, do you know what? I am so glad you showed me that. I'm so amazed at how much better it looks after you guys were done than even before you came. Because, that is definitely something I think we strive to do as an industry, is to leave every community and every property that we impact in any way better than when we were there initially. We are literally the environmentalists of this country. I truly strongly believe that. And I think if you really look with open eyes in Washington County, you can see that.
Absolutely. We have one of the most scrutinized industry. We are the most scrutinized industry out there. And and
that's okay. It holds us to a higher standard.
Right, and it does. So that's what I'm saying. So if you go to a site and you see a light plant, you're going to see containment under that light plant. If you're driving down the highway and you see a light plant, do you? No. And it's because we are held to that high standard.
Yeah, and so we should be. It makes us strive to be safer, cleaner, and to do things the right way.
I couldn't even pour coffee out onto the ground.
Oh no, that is an escape liquid.
Yeah,
get a spill kit. Get a spill kit.
But you can outside right here.
Yeah, it
weird.
It is definitely crazy.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't get to see is the value of those tours to go see a frac site, to go see a well site or a compressor station, to see everything that goes into it. The very first time I walked onto a well pad, I was just in disbelief because if you just listen to what's in the news and what people say, it's like night and day compared to it. All the safety protocols, procedures, the regulations, like everything that has to be in place, the casings, how much concrete gets pumped down there. It's a sight to be seen, but I think a lot of people don't believe it until they actually see it.
I agree. And we're our own worst enemy in this industry because we do hold things close to our chest, and we're not really the best at giving that full picture and having that transparency. And I truthfully think a lot of it has to do with we're just so gosh darn busy, to take the time to actually explain things properly and open up and teach people about what's truly going on out there. We put on a couple of bus tours, even internally in our industry, where we, whether it's Women's Energy Network or Antero did one just recently, and we took people from our own industry, so people that work in our offices in accounting or whatever, out to a drilling location and a frac location because they'd never seen it themselves. And these are people that are physically working in our industry. And they're just amazed at what's going on out there, being able to see it with their own eyes. I definitely think we need to figure out how to become better at doing that and selling ourselves.
Well, it is frustrating, especially for the field people who work 90 to 120 hours a day, and then they want to tell you how their life is at home, but it falls on deaf ears. Like, it's frustrating to be able to talk about how hard you work and how much of an impact you make when, you know, you're the bad guy, you're the rebel.
We're the bad guys. So, Jason, do you, in your opinion, think that there's going to be any kind of give and take over the next couple of years in regards to any kind of legislation that's going to help us, with our permitting? We have a heck of a lot of projects. Right now, we're stuck in a really difficult situation here in Appalachia, that we have the drilling going on and we're completing these wells, but we don't have the infrastructure in place to get the product out of this area. And without those, those permitting issues being allayed, we're kind of we're stuck,
Yeah, I hope that we can work something out over the next couple of years. I mean, we're pretty split evenly in the House. The Senate is made up of Republicans, and with the new Governor Shapiro, we're kind of curious as to where he wants to go on some of these things. Genuinely think that he wants things to function better, and
I've seen some hopeful things, to be honest with you, and we all know what side of the fence that I stand on, but I am remaining hopeful myself.
I do think that we could get something done. My guess is if something does happen, it'll probably be around budget time in June or July. And, look, I think there's hope there, and I think there's definitely room for improvement, particularly in the Southwest Regional Office. Seems to be one of the worst run offices in the state. And, not having that level of consistency and stability and predictability wreaks havoc on your industry when you can go right next door in Ohio and West Virginia and have your permit in 2 weeks or 20 days or whatever the number is. And here you could be waiting for a year or 2 years or however long it is and have to compete with people who, your comma was in the wrong place or this word was spelled wrong. So reject, back to the end of the line. I mean, it's stuff like that really needs to be addressed. It's common sense. I really think we can get something done to restore some predictability and consistency among permitting in Pennsylvania. And we've been trying for this since I've got into office.
I know you guys have. I know.
Maybe your mental health programs that you're raising money for will help the people in the future be more receptive to the truth in your message.
In your efforts, yeah.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I mean, look, it's a long-term payoff or a long-term gamble that'll pay off. So we'll see.
Absolutely, fingers crossed. I mean, when we were driving down here for the show, and I was thinking about operators that we have in Washington County. The majority of them, except for Range Resources, who I adore, have acreage in other areas. And any company is going to take the path of least resistance when they're making these decisions moving forward. You make it too difficult to carry out your activities here in southwestern PA, and they have other places that they can go. I don't think people fully understand that or kind of grasp that is a possibility. And I can't really imagine what Washington County or any of the surrounding counties and area would be like without the industry here, to be honest.
I remember, and I don't want to go back to those
Neither
times
do
again.
I.
It was not fun.
No, absolutely not. And the funny thing is we've kind of gone full circle. So I'm originally from McDonald, PA, and my first job was the Giant Eagle down there. I got special release from school so that I could ride my bike down to the Giant Eagle in McDonald. But one of my side jobs, there used to be a little local paper down there still when I was 15. And I bribed them to let me go into their archives, which were up in this attic in their building in Main Street in McDonald. And their archives were like these moldy boxes up in this attic. And I just started going through things. And it was like 150 degrees because it's like in the top of this old building. There's no air conditioning. And there's all these old articles of the oil field in McDonald and surrounding areas. I mean, there were so many rigs up that you couldn't see the skyline. There was that much activity. I mean, McDonald Main Street, they had like 4 theaters. They had rail going through their trolleys all the way from Pittsburgh to McDonald. Do you know how far that actually is? And by the time I was there was one bus in the morning that came in the morning and took you and in the afternoon brought you home. Like, I mean, it was absolutely booming. And, my own personal little town was reduced to all of the stores closing. We had a Giant Eagle, we had one traffic light, and, the industry was gone until it came back in 2005, 2007-ish in the area and just really, breathed life back into the area. We don't want to go anywhere, Jason. We want to stay here in Southwestern PA forever and ever and ever. And have your little girl come and work with us.
Keep up the work.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go to Florida for a year and get my MBA. I think that would be fun, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, good place to choose to do that, Jason. I like how that worked out.
7 hurricanes. That's all I can say.
Oh my God! In a year?
So.
In a year and a half?
Yeah. 2 summers, 7 hurricanes. I'm not allowed back in the state without letting them know I'm coming.
Your fault.
Absolutely. At least you didn't bring any of that bad weather up here. Or are we going to blame that on you? It's been kind of weird.
You can blame Ivan on me because Ivan hit Florida when I was there, and then when I flew home, it hit and flooded our area pretty badly in 2004.
Well, listen, Jason, we're going to have to tie things up. Any kind of final thoughts or anything like that? It is our mission on this show to kind of raise awareness. Like we said, about education in the industry, both opportunities for young people as well as just educating. We're going to have a lot of kind of technical things coming up as well. Legislation, which is where you come in, and we really do appreciate all of your efforts for all of the people here in Washington County in the 46th District. And then last but not least, the people. We just want to thank you for joining us, Jason. And
happy Valentine's Day, Timmy.
Happy Valentine's Day. Aw, that's her husband.
I love you.
So sweet. And again, my name is Jennifer McIntyre Morris. Join us next Tuesday at 3:15 for the next episode. And
Sarah Phillips.
Thanks so much.
And this has been Energy First on your local station, 590 AM, 101.1 FM, W266DB, WMBS, Uniontown.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Monica.